I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending July the 13th, where I was lucky enough to get to take in an international spectacle up at the Calgary Stampede over the weekend. They had the International Livestock Auctioneer Championship, and I was humbled to be asked to be a judge. They usually have two American judges actually had two American judges and three Canadian judges there for that international competition, and it was an awesome experience. You guys that don't know anything about it, it's a typical auctioneer contest, but it's held partly on Friday at a local auction market. They have three auction markets in the Calgary area that host it, and they take turns. And then that's where the first round is, and then you get to the top 10 and they go into the Calgary Stampede facilities and really put on a show for the public. And it's an awesome display. They're real aggressive in the way that they show it, but they're mindful of who's watching it, and just being proactive and showing the public something positive about an industry that's so important to that area. And once people get a good feeling about that, it's hard for them to get a bad feeling about it. So I know sometimes in the cattle industry and the livestock marketing industry, we get a little blowback from some of these tree huggers and animal activists and things like that. But when you show the public something like this that's so much fun, that's so interesting, the crowd is loving it. It's a proactive thing instead of a reactive thing, and I think we need to do more of it down here in the United States, rather than just sitting around and waiting for a problem and then trying to take care of it. But just 36 of really good auctioneers there. I tell you, the top 15 or 15 to 18 could probably have won it, and could probably win contests anywhere. I was real happy with the way that it turned out, though, the way that the average of the judges' scores came in, and a young man there that's very impressive by the name of Ryan Kneinenbelt. And it took me a while to pick up that name, but after I got it, I kind of like it. But he's only 21 years old, and he ain't no kid. I don't know, some of you know me or have seen me. I'm a pretty big old boy, but this boy makes me look small up next to him. And he's kind of an imposing figure, but really knows how to engage a crowd. They do not have a interview process with this particular auctioneer contest like they do the World Championships or some of your regional competitions. But what they do have instead, and I'm not sure it's not better, they have you in front of the public there. And they have people that are donating money there. They're paying to put their brands on those cattle, and you kind of give an informative talk about the branding of the cattle, and then you auction off a black box item, which is a donated item, and you try to get the crowd engaged in it, other than just selling a few lots there to some of the regular buyers in the local area. And it really separates the men from the boys, ones that can talk about things and really put on a production, rather than just sitting and selling cattle by the pound like they always do. But really good auctioneer that come in reserve champion, Kyle Lehman from Nebraska, and he's awful good too. And like I said, either one of them and a few more down the line could have won that contest, but I sure tickled to see Ryan win that. And you boys that are going to be in that World Championship auctioneer contest better look out for him, because here he comes, and you might as well just let him win the world, because he's going to do it before long, and he's a lot younger than all the rest of you. But we started out at Olds Auction Market, like Olds Auction Mart, like I said, and then finished up with the Calgary Stampede. The committee there just rolled out the red carpet. We had so much fun. We got to watch two performances of the Calgary Stampede. Got to watch two performances of the Chuck Wagon races, which are awesome, which I used to watch when I was at Cheyenne, but Cheyenne hadn't been the same since they lost the Chuck Wagons from up north. But just really a fun end of the week and over the weekend, and I had a busy early in the week at the Western Video Market, so I'm about ready to lay low for a while and hide behind a soapweed down here in the Texas Panhandle. But let's look at the board for last week. August live cattle futures. Monday was down a quarter. Tuesday down 67 cents. Wednesday down $1.60. You're starting to get a trend here after that big holiday showing what they had the week before, and then no support at all from the board. Thursday was back up $1.17, and Friday down 47 cents, with August live cattle ending the week at 104.55, down $1.82 for the week. Go out to October, 107.37, down $2.25 for the week. August feeder cattle, Monday was down 75 cents, Tuesday up 40, Wednesday down 245, Thursday up 162, and Friday down 30. So hard to get a trend there other than the losses outweighed the gains. And August feeder cattle ended the week at 150.72, down $1.48 for the week, while you had these farmer feeders blowing their brains out on grass yearlings up in the Midwest, especially in Nebraska. And then you had guys contracting calves super high, and program cattle on both Superior and Western Video, just dollars and dollars and tens of dollars a hundred over what the market bears. But again, no support from the board, and I think it started to affect the cash market later in the week, as we had no support from the board. But October feeder cattle ended the week at 150.135, down 80 cents. Your fat cattle trade was extremely quiet, just ground to a halt. Nothing going on. Through Thursday, they had only sold 6,000 head in the entire 5-area feeding region. Nothing going on. Then started to trickle in just a little bit Friday morning with a dab of trade in the northern plains from 109 to 109.5, and mostly 175 dressed. But then Friday afternoon, your southern plains took off, and Texas still garnering a kind of a premium for the 5 areas, trading it mostly all 111, and they traded a buck higher than everybody else the previous week too, but it was $3 lower from that 114. But 111, still nothing to sneeze at with all these heavy supplies, but $3 lower. Nebraska and your other major regions starting to trade on Friday at 110. And we're not looking for a big volume, because just it was hard to find any market information about that. Sure didn't get any from USDA on those trades, but we'll see how it goes. You know, after that huge movement that they had the week before at the sharply higher price, I think we're still sitting pretty good. But you look at some of your feeder cattle markets for last week. Real-time index ended the week at 146.99. That was actually $2.69 higher than the end of the previous week, the end of the 4th of July week there. So you look at your cash trends, your feeder cattle, compared to 2 weeks ago, because we didn't have hardly any sales during the 4th of July. What sales we did have were sharply higher. But if you compare this past week's market to 2 weeks prior, kind of firmed to $4 higher. Actually not as high as the few sales that we did have during the 4th of July week, but there was a lot of excitement going on during that 4th of July week, and we really failed to hold all that excitement. Even though we had a lot of barbecue specials, a lot of cattle selling at a premium, program cattle both on the video and in your premium markets up there in the Sandhills and Nebraska and places. As a whole, your commodity market on a feeder steer or heifer was not as good at the end of this past week as it was the 4th of July week, but still probably better than the week prior to 4th of July. But you know, I want to talk about that. We talk about how far we can back some of these cattle up. I know last week we quoted out of Bassett, Nebraska. Just one quote we had there: 216 head, weighed 871 at 157.60. And you know, you guys in other parts of the country, it makes them feel bad because they can't get it. You know, maybe they don't have all the paperwork on the NHTC. Maybe they should get your market men or somebody to help them prepare those, because I think a lot of those cattle could qualify. The NHTC is not that big a deal. Just don't give them an implant and you can qualify for it. Some of these other programs are hard for a yearling to reach, but on a calf sale it's not all that hard. You know, if you have to doctor a calf, just jot down what ear tag number that calf had and pull him out, and then you kind of got some all natural cattle. But if you would talk about how far you can back cattle up, that's from the price you give for them as feeders back to what you think you're going to get for them as fat cattle. But you look out on some cattle that are bought right now, even if you take them to a big weight, you're probably going to be going off your December board, which is not quite $1.12, but I think close enough to $1.12 that we could use that for a figure. So if we figure that we're going to have some, and we're usually not running a big basis in December too, so you may not be able to bank on that $4, $5, $6, $8 basis that the guys that are feeding cattle have been enjoying all spring here and a lot of the early part of the year. But so $1.12. Now, how far can we back those up to? So let's say I know corn's cheap, and I know those green yearlings gain good, but you're doubtful you're going to feed them for under 60 cents, including all your expenses, freight getting them, you know, from the barn to the feed lot. You got to have at least a few chute charges on there, and what grain they're going to eat. So let's say 60 cents. Take an 850 pound steer up to 1,400 pounds at least. That's $330 a head there. And so you back that down, the most you can give for one of those would be $1.45. Well, that most of your 850 pound steers are bringing right around $1.45 in your basic market. But in those premium markets and some of those really good addresses and places are bringing a whole lot more than that. Okay, let's say we're going to feed these cattle at Disney World, and everything just come up roses. You never stubbed your toe. Everything was great. You hitchhiked them to the feed lot with no expense. But let's say in a world where we could get 50 cents on the gain. 50 cents on the gain would be $275 to get them to 1,400 pounds. That's $152. So that would be $152. That'd be the absolute most you could give for an 850 pound steer in hopes of coming out. So that's backing those cattle up $40. So, but you see all last week in places like Valentine, places like Bassett, every time Burwell has a sale, sometimes in Ogallala, but those really premium sales up there, and those are the best cattle in the world. Your steer show jocks, you know, drive around out in those commercial herds and pick out show steers at times. They are the best cattle. They're in the best condition of their lives. They're green. They got a lot of go to them. Got to take an age to them because they've been turned out so long, and they will really perform to you. But you can't back them up more than $40. And some of those farmer feeders are thinking they're going to back them up 55. Now they may luck out, and the market might come to them. But if they're that optimistic, why don't they just buy the board and sell their corn and not get their boots dirty? You know, we're glad that they get active, and it's good to see people getting into the market, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But let's give some quotes for some commodity market cattle here in a good part of the world where people kind of keep their head on their shoulders and they don't go too crazy. South Coffeyville, Oklahoma had a good sale there late in the week, and they sold 163 head of steers, weighed 924 pounds. Commodity cattle at $137.75. That's pretty good. Fort Scott, Kansas, they kind of know what they're doing around there too. Had a good Saturday sale. That's our best Saturday sale we have on Cattle Market Central. 61 head, weighed 780 pounds at $150. And that's a look back at a lot of activity over the last week from a home DV auction home office here. We'll talk to you next week.